Hi, everybody, and welcome to Observing with Webb for November of 2016, where the armchair astronomer figures out what they're looking at, why it's so cool, and what they should check out next. Don't forget to check out my Podbean page, my YouTube channel, which you're probably on right now, and my Twitter feed, all with the username MrWebbPV, MrWEBBPV. So, November. It brings us good views of Venus, Mars, Jupiter, maybe some Leonid Meteors, and hopefully some good news for the Pequea Valley Planetarium. Now, speaking of which, let me get this out of the way. Thank you, all of you, so much for your support. It was quite overwhelming. There were a lot of people voting that I didn't know. There were a lot of people who shared things with other people that I just couldn't keep up with it on Facebook. It was just amazing. It was fantastic. So please, let me thank you. Just even if we don't win, thank you for bringing the community together. This was just so cool. I've heard many cool stories about their people's planetarium trips and all sorts of cool things. So just thank you. The Pequea Valley and the astronomy community are just great communities to be a part of. So thank you very much. Now, you might be thinking, well, what do you mean if we don't win? Here's the thing. So there's 15 proposals. The top 6 win. And I don't know where we are. They gave us rankings at 2 weeks out of the 4 and 3 weeks. And both times we were in 3rd place. And the top 3 places didn't change at all, but there was some mixing in the bottom. So I think that's really good news, but they won't tell me. They don't put out the rankings. In fact, they won't put out any rankings anymore. But what they will do is they will surprise me. They will surprise me with some sort of publishers clearinghouse type of all-school assembly or something. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm not going to know until probably you know. And even so, I'll probably send out an email or something at that point. But just so you know, I'm not holding on to any news. We'll see what happens. So, anyway, speaking of October, did you catch the night launch? I did. It was actually really cool. If you caught my Facebook Live about it, I apologize because it was terrible. But I did get this picture here. And what you're seeing here in this picture is, well, this is the night launch of Antares right here. And what you see is that it's very bright, very bright, and it's burning. You're looking like Wallops Island is in this direction, but really far away, because I'm in Lancaster County. And it's going up, and then it's still burning. And then right about here is where it detaches from the first stage. And let's see if I can zoom in on this a bit. There we go. Whoops. There we go. I can zoom in there and you can see it sort of just stops there. And then eventually it picks up again. And there's the second stage. I don't know what that blip is. I'm pretty sure I bumped the camera, but yeah, you know, stuff happens. Anyway, if you look at this, my picture, this is 222. You can see all the cars going by in a truck. And these are just power lines. Okay? And this is an airplane going by, and all the other little trails are stars. Because I had the camera open for about 3 minutes, so it was able to actually catch all of that, which was pretty cool. So I was very happy with that picture. But anyway, you're not here for October. You're here for November. So let's talk about November. Let's talk about the planets first, then we'll talk about the events, and then we'll talk about the constellations. Good thing there's not too much going on in November, but let's start at November 2nd, and let's look at the planets. After sunset, you're going to be able to see Venus, Saturn, and Mars. And here I kind of have them set up here, and I'll set this up so that it'll show us what's happening throughout the whole month. Let me set it to sunset. Now, in particular, tonight, November 2nd, you'll be able to see the Moon, Saturn, and Venus really close together, all 3, which will be really neat. But you'll also be able to see Mars way over here. Now this is at sunset. Let me go me go a little bit further. Let me go like 7 p.m. because that's about when it gets a little bit darker. So you notice you've got Venus, Saturn, and the Moon and Mars all a little bit lower in the sky than they were before. This is the Milky Way galaxy. You probably won't be able to see that, but it's there. Anyway, for the planets, watch what happens throughout the month. You'll start seeing Saturn sort of move to the right and away from Venus. And Saturn's going to get closer to the Sun from our perspective. And Venus and Mars are sort of going to stay maybe a little bit closer, maybe a little bit further apart. But essentially, by mid-November, it's just Venus and Mars that you can see. And what you also notice is Mars is going through the constellation of Capricornus. And Venus is in Sagittarius, but Venus is very, very bright. So let me go back to the first. So what you're looking for with Venus, you're looking toward the southwest. You're looking for the brightest object in that direction. That's going to be Venus. Saturn's going to be dimmer and to the right. And, And if you are looking for Mars, what you'll want to do is maybe wait till it gets a little bit darker. And if you're looking for Mars, you want to look for Capricornus, which is kind of tough. It's a dimmer constellation, but it's there. Or just look for Sagittarius, the teapot over here, and just move to the left a little bit, and you'll be able to find Mars. So again, Venus, you're looking about 10 or 20 degrees above the horizon. That's 10, 20, somewhere around there. Very bright. It's going to set around 8 p.m. For Mars, you want to look south-southwest after sunset, and it's going to be red. Remember, Mars is going to be a good bit red compared to everything else. And it's going to go through the triangle throughout the month, just like that. Okay? And, yeah, okay, so Saturn's going to be there too, but again, let me go back to the first. Sorry, I feel a little disjointed today. If I go back to the first, Saturn, you'll still be able to see it as the sun sets, or after the sun sets at like 7:30. But after a couple days, it just gets way too low on the horizon. So Saturn's on its way out. Okay? All right. Oh, I forgot Jupiter. Now, unfortunately, there's no real planets to see throughout the night, although Mars does set around 10:30, so you can see Mars at least. But after that, there's no real visible with the naked eye planets. But after 10:30, Orion comes up, Gemini, and you see all these winter constellations. Now notice I'm looking east and going through the night. And what you'll notice is, oh, there's Jupiter. Jupiter is our nice, excellent morning planet for the month. All you got to do is look at the eastern sky in the morning after 5:30 at the beginning of the month, and then it's actually going to rise earlier and earlier. So by the end of the month, if you're out at 4 a.m., you might catch it on the horizon. All you got to do is look for the very bright object in that direction. I've been watching it for the past 2 weeks now, and it's getting a little higher and higher in the sky every single morning. And it also helps that sunset is happening a little later and later, or earlier. Sunrise is happening later and later as well. But Jupiter's really good to catch out there. So, again, in the mornings, you'll see Jupiter out there in the east. And then in the evenings around sunset, you'll see maybe Saturn, definitely Venus, and definitely Mars. Okay? So let's talk about the events that are happening. In fact, I already talked about this first one, but November 2nd, you'll see a nice close encounter between Saturn, Venus, and the Moon. Again, the Moon is, I believe, 7 degrees away from Venus. Excuse me. And only about 2 degrees above Saturn, which is a pretty good little collection there. Now, let me zoom out a little bit. And if you know the motion of the moon, you notice that every day it's going to get a little higher in the sky and a little thicker. And by the 5th, it's going to be near Mars. Okay? In fact, on the 5th, what you're going to do is you're going to look, oh, you know what? I have to take off daylight savings time. I got to change my times. So after that, it's going to be daylight savings time. Excuse me. And on November 5th at about 6 p.m. Well, sorry, November 5th. Yeesh, it's been a long month. I apologize. October was crazy. But anyway, on November 5th, the moon and Mars will be somewhat close together, about 7 degrees apart in the night sky. And then on the next night, the moon will be thicker and higher in the sky, and it will also again be about 7 degrees apart. And so the moon and Mars, you'll be able to see them in the same direction. This is a good time to look for Mars because Mars is not that bright, but it is red, so it is somewhat easy to distinguish. But if you know the moon is around it, then you know you're looking in the right portion of the sky. All right, the first quarter moon is actually on the 7th, okay? And really, not much happens for the next week. If you do go outside and look at the moon, you'll see it gets thicker and thicker. It turns into a gibbous phase throughout the rest of this week. And then on November 14th, November 14th is the full moon. That means it's visible all night. The whole moon is visible from sunset to sunrise. And if we have some snow, it makes for really good visibility at night. Now, what's going to happen after that? Well, let's see. What we're going to have to do if we want to see the moon, we're going to have to get up later and later. Okay. And on the 17th, when the moon is right near Gemini, we are going to have the Leonid Meteor shower. Now, let me explain a little bit about that. See, the Leonid Meteor shower gets its name from the radiant of the meteors, where the meteors appear to come from Leo. So we have to go early in the morning to see Leo the lion, well, at least 2 a.m., and around that time is when it's going to be best to see. And so you'll see meteors streaking from Leo the lion. You know, one here, one there. But here's the thing, it's not going to be that great this year because that moon is big and bright. Well, it's bright. It's usually pretty much the same size. But it's a waning gibbous moon, very bright. It's going to put a lot of light pollution into the sky, which is going to dim out or overpower some of the dimmer constellation or dimmer meteors. So, is it worth going out for a couple minutes, maybe 10 minutes? Absolutely. Is it worth packing all your stuff, going to Cherry Springs? No, not so much. But you might be able to see some really cool ones, especially the really bright ones. Again, if you know what happens with the moon, you notice that now in waning gibbous, it's going to get closer to a half moon, last quarter moon, which will happen on the 21st, and that's when the left half is lit up, and you can see this last quarter moon from about midnight is when it rises, all the way into the morning. You can actually see it in the morning sky. And then, do you see something happening here? See Jupiter down there? See the moon up there? If you've seen the moon changing its position, you'll notice that it gets closer and closer and closer to Jupiter. And the closest it's going to be for this month is November 25th. And you're going to be able to see Jupiter and the moon not too far apart. In fact, I believe Jupiter is just 4 degrees up and to the right of the moon. Makes a good binocular sight. You might not be able to get both of them in there, but still, if you don't know where Jupiter is, the morning of the 25th is a good time to look. You just have to look southeast after 4:30 in the morning and before sunrise, which is about 8 a.m. So you have a good window there. Just look for that thin crescent moon rising up, and Jupiter is about 4 degrees up and to the right. And again, if you notice the motion of the moon, you'll notice it gets closer and closer to the horizon and thinner until November 29th is when you have the new moon and thus the darkest skies of the month. And that's what's going on for the month. It's not too much going on, but some very good views of Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. Mostly Jupiter and Venus. Those are the best ones. But let me talk real quick about the constellations. I see I've been going 15 minutes. So let me wrap this up with just a few constellations. Let's go November 15th. And let's go sunset. Ooh, man, that's going to be 4:47. That's about 5 o'clock. Let's go a little bit deeper. Let's go like 7 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night Eastern Standard Time. Mars is still out there. You will still be able to catch in the west these summer constellations. You can still find Lyra the Harp, Cygnus the Swan, and Aquila the Eagle, with Delphinus the Dolphin right there as well. But they're not going to be there for that long because they're making room. They're leaving and making room for the fall constellations like Pegasus. You're looking for this great big square. And Andromeda, you're looking for these two curved lines. And they actually share a star, not technically, but they share a star. And what happens is throughout the night and throughout the season, those fall constellations will move across the sky and start to set. And then you'll be able to see, earlier and earlier each night, the winter constellations coming up, like Orion and Gemini, Auriga, and Canis Major, all really good ones. So I think I'm going to stop it there and wish you very clear, dark skies for the month of November. And I hope you get out, maybe see some Leonids, or just catching Venus and Jupiter, I think is going to be my goal for the month. So clear, dark skies.